Hi guys, it's Clarice, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to create poppies. And this was also a special request that someone had posted in one of my previous videos, and I figured let's try poppies because it is springtime, and also I've been seeing a lot of poppies on Instagram and just all over the place. So here we are with poppies. This is what I had done creating it for the video that I've already recorded, but then I looked at it post recording and realized that the angle was really off, and I'm like, let's do this all over again, more practice for me, and it might turn out better. So this is what I had come up with, and I've also tried it over the weekend, well, last weekend, and I came up with some really cool effects every time I tried it. Like this is the kind of version, I guess. It reminds me of the poppies that we get around Remembrance Day and how it kind of has that effect because of the felt material that it's made out of. But I figured because my style is mainly loose and very quick to do, so you're not sitting there for hours, and this is quick but pretty and flowy and romantic looking, so we're going to do this style. And there's actually like two different ways that I've done this here. So once I get started, which I'm going to make it right away so that we don't prolong this video and me talking on and on and on, because we all know that I can do that. Let me tell you what brushes I'm using. So I'm going to be using my Old Faithfuls, which are the Squirrel Mop brush in 1, and then the Silver Black Velvet in the 4 and the 8. And then I'm also going to use a number 10 just in case I need to sort of mix in some water without any color to sort of make things more flowy. So that's what I'll be using. And for colors, I am using, for the main colors, the reds, I'm using like a warm red and an orange, and you'll see why. I don't know if you can see it in this, but I've used red and then there's hints of orange here and there. I'll show you exactly how that happens. Just make sure it's a bright red and it's your warm red as opposed to your cool red, because if you use your cool red, this is what's going to happen. I mean, it's not ugly, but you'll definitely see the difference. Like, this is a cool red that I ended up using accidentally. And as you can see, the orange and it almost looks like a pink. It just doesn't blend in as well as this one right here. So, or even these ones right here. So my suggestion is just make sure that you're using warm colors. Okay, so like the warm red and the warm orange, that's what I mean. And then I'm also going to be using a green. I like using my black to sort of blend in with the green to get like a darker, richer forest green. That's just my preference. And then we're using a black for the centers. So ideally, these colors I find are very stark and bold, and I just love it. Like red and black and just the white all around. Amazing. Oh yes, and last but not least, I will show you how to do the splatter if you don't know how to do that already. I mean, how fun. It's actually one of the funnest things to do. Every time I incorporate it into my paintings. Of course, if you splatter too much, then you're pretty much like, oh no, that's too much, and you cannot undo that because you're not working on a computer. It is you'd have to start all over again. All right, so without further ado, I am going to start and show you how to do these poppies. So to start off, I just also wanted to make a quick note and let you guys know that paper also makes a huge difference on how the color translates and how your poppies turn out. For instance, look how it turned out here, and then look at how it turned out on this paper right here. So as you can see, it's different, right? So if you feel like after trying this video that I'm doing, that it doesn't quite look like this, maybe try using different papers to see what that looks and feels like. This paper right here that I'm using is the Winsor and Newton watercolor cold press. And this one, this is actually from a roll, so it's just a scrap, and I figured let's try and do some doodles, and it turned out pretty good. This one that I'm using here is, I'm going to mention it in the comments below, but just so we have it here as well. This is the Canson Montval watercolor. Yeah, so and all of this is available online on, well, I always shop on Amazon because I am a compulsive online shopper, and Amazon is one of those. So all right, okay, so let's get started. Now that you know about the color, you know about the paper, you know about my brushes, we're going to get started with the painting. So to start off, I'm going to use my I'll use my number 8, and I'm just going to get some of my red. So I'm just getting some of the red that I have already, and I will just gonna make sure this is positioned well so you can see it. And I'm just going to start off with doing a faint version of almost looking like a flower, like the poppy, obviously, since that's what we're doing. And I'm using water, I'm not using any more color. I'm just going to take this all around, and I'm just going to leave the center whitish. All right, so that's what that looks like. And you don't want the edges to be perfect because it's a flowy flower, and we're just going to do that. Okay, and now once we have that, I'm going to use my Squirrel Mop brush, and getting a little bit more saturated color of the red, I'm just going to start dabbing to make a petal. And this is what you are going to get. And because it's still wet, this is the kind of effect you get right here, okay? And I'm going to get a little more color and just put it at the edges, at the center, and this way it kind of blends in. Then I'm going to go back to this brush and make sure it's, actually you don't even have to make sure it's clean. I'm just going to use some of the orange that I have going on my palette. And again, you want it to be fairly saturated, not too weak in color. And then just dab it around as another petal here. And then using the same red that I have on the Squirrel Mop brush, I'm going to go ahead and do this here. And so you're pretty much just alternating it between the red and the orange, and you're just going to go all around. Let's just keep doing that. And then some more orange. And then finally a little bit of more red and just some orange over here. And then you can just perfect the edges if you want and just kind of go around and by perfection I mean like if you feel like something's sticking out a bit too much and you want to go and fix it, then do it, but just make sure it's not a perfect circle, okay? And now what I like to do is just go in the center and put in really dark spots of red. So with less water on my brush and more color on it, I'm just going to make sure I got a nice amount of red, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this all around. And as you can see, what's happening is the color is just kind of seeping into the rest of the petals that we've created. And it's just going to happen throughout. And you can swish it around if you want it to flow in certain directions. It's totally up to you. But it will spread. So just be aware of that. And you can also kind of tilt your page if you want. If it's not quite going in the direction you want it to go, that sort of thing. If you feel like you want more red at the edges, please go ahead and do that as well. Or even in your orange, if you feel like it's too orange, like I feel like this is slightly a bit too orangey. So I'm just gonna go ahead and dab some in there. And then finally, taking this brush, I'm going to get some of my black. And I want the black to be fairly saturated so it comes out as a nice rich black as opposed to like a watercolor one. And I'm just doing this pointillism kind of movement, which is just dot, 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 dot. Or dab, 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 dab. However you want to describe that. Again, I'm going to make sure that I have enough black. And you'll notice that it's kind of seeping into the red. And again, that is nice. That's not a bad thing. So go ahead and do that as well. If that is happening, that's totally fine. And this is where I get slightly obsessive, where I'm like, oh, it has to be just perfect. But it will never be perfect because this is watercolor and we are doing a loose style. So please try and let go at some point. Okay, I'm going to be done in a second. Okay, done. So now using the same technique, I'm going to do another one, but this time I'm going to just use I'm going to use one of the edges that's already wet, and I'm just going to create one of the petals so that it seeps in. Do you see how the orange is seeping in? So I'm doing this, and now I'm going to use the same brush that I have, get in more orange on it, and then create another petal on the side. And you might prefer this technique of doing it without doing the outer shell, so to speak. And now I'm going to go in and get more of my red. And you're pretty much just kind of going around till you get what looks like a poppy flower. And then some orange. And then some red again. All right, so you can see this is a lot more messier than that. So you can have a lot of freedom with how you want your petals to look. It could be super flowy or super, defined. In terms of being circular rather. And then you just kind of dab all around. If you have a darker version of the red, that would also help if you want to have that from dark to light. I'm going to try something here. It might or might not work. So I'm mixing a tad amount of black into my red, and I'm just going to go in at the center. I'm not putting the black directly on there because then it's going to look kind of like that. I'm just putting some of the black, mixing it separately with the red on the side. And I'm using that. So kind of like this, all around. Okay. And now I'm actually going to take this brush and just wet it a bit, and then just at the edges, I'm going to do this. And you might want to do this, you might not want to do this. Like, it's just, again, it's like a flowy effect that I've learned in my experimentations, and I kind of like it. So it really depends on the vision that you have for these flowers. And always have a piece of, I was going to say toilet paper, tissue paper or paper towel handy, so you can just blot out any of the excess liquid. And this part's probably already dried up, so that's okay if it is. And again, I just like the flowy effects because I find it so, yes, I know I use this word a lot, romantic, and just dreamy rather, as opposed to just realistic rather. Yep. So now I'm going to use my 4, and I'm getting more black for the center, and then this is what I'm going to do. And you're just doing the whole pointillism bit. And remember how the center didn't quite come out to be quite circular? You can fix that by the amount of black you add in. So no worries there. It's just, it's a lot more forgiving when your artwork is this loose and interpretive, for lack of a better word. Like, something could be a mistake and you could be, yeah, I meant that to happen totally. All right, okay, so that's that. And now I will do the stems. And after I do the stems, I'm going to do one more just to give you a side view of what one of these could look like. So using the same black brush that I have, I'm going to mix it in my green, because I mentioned earlier, I like my greens to be a lot darker, like a forest green. And that is easily achieved when you mix some black with any of the colors, especially the green. So their stems are super thin, so just make sure you're using a thinner brush, and just at the tip, make sure that it's pointed, and then you just, with a still hand, as still as you can, just press down and drag. I know I always say click and drag, and literally it crossed my mind as I was doing this or getting ready to say this. And then same thing for this one. Oh, this was nice and wet, so like, that's nice. And I'm just going to go ahead, and it doesn't have to be straight lines, because if you've noticed, their stems are very noodly. It's very cute, which is what makes them like very whimsical to look at, and yeah, just dreamy. Dreamy flowers, guys. Yeah, I know my descriptions are super cheesy, sorry, but that's just the kind of person I am, and these are the kind of thoughts that run through my head. Random and weird. All right, so that's that. And finally, we get to do our little stem bud. So just, it doesn't have to be from the middle, but I'm just going to start from the middle because we have room. And I'm taking it up. Make sure you see this. And then I'm going to extend it and curve it over, like you have one of those lamps these days, which are in fashion. They're very old fashioned, but I guess they're back in fashion right now. And I'm just going to create a simple bud, and I'm not quite sure how to describe this to you, but if you can just watch me do it, it's easy. Create the oval at the tip, and we are good to go. I'm just going to put in a little bit of black at the edges so it gives it a darker feel. And just throw in some water there. So it swishes around. And there you have your bud. All right, and so now I'm going to do, oh, I should do one more stem to do the side flower, as I like to call it, side view of the flower. So let's just do a stem from here and have it intertwine. Sorry, I realized I moved it down a bit. So if you didn't catch that, all I did was just draw a stem and extend it this way. Right, this got a little bit thick here, but again, like I said, the beauty of watercolor is it doesn't all have to be consistent, especially with loose watercolor. And then I'm using, I will use the Squirrel Mop brush, making sure I have enough red. I'm going to do what resembles a cup of like this. And then using water, I'm just going to make sure it's kind of flowy all over. And then I'm getting more red for the tips at the bottom here. And so it just spreads out and gets darker. All right, and then for this part, the part that kind of peeks out, I'm using more water, so it should be lighter. I'm just gonna dab some water off here. It should be lighter, and I'm just going to, okay, that's clearly not lighter, and a lot more orangey. So it's almost like a hint of, because it's in the background, so it's like a hazy hint of the outer area. And I'm making sure that I connect with the edges of this so that the color flows in. All right, and then you can have them mix about by just tilting your page or your book. And I'm just going to take out any excess water that I have on my green brush that I'm using just for water, and just do the edges. Oops, I realize I'm doing that there. So again, it's fading off. It doesn't quite look like massively huge. Okay, and now using the thin 4 that I have, I'm getting my black, and I will just be dabbing it on the inside so it's a slight hint. And it's fine if it kind of blends with this portion of the flower. It would be cute almost if you could do that. So that's the side. And if you feel like it needs more red at the bottom, go ahead, put more red. It's totally fine. Okay, it's really up to you how you want to interpret that. And then I'll just do little buds like, actually this doesn't have a lot of orange, does it? So I guess you could even explore that if you wanted to, like if you wanted no orange in there, period. But just to make it kind of consistent, I'll just dab in some orange. And always wait for it to dry because it never looks the same once it's dried. So I'm just going to use the excess that I have on this, and I will create just an even looser version of this. And literally all you're doing is you're just doing a petal and just like making it a circle with different variations of color on your brush. So for instance, this one has more color now, and you're just loosely connecting it. With white space. Oops, dropped my brush. And now you're just taking your black and just in the center, exactly like I've done before. You're just creating the center. That's it. So yeah, this is just a simpler version compared to the more, I guess, these versions that I've shown you. So if you really want to do really quick ones, literally you're just kind of creating the shape of the flower, and then you're dabbing stuff in, black center, I mean. And then you're just making sure that with this, you're getting different variations of the red and watercolor in it. So I'm dabbing the excess red there, but like you can totally go in the center and just do more. And again, like poppies are easy to do because it's pretty colors. So really it's hard to mess a flower like this up because just having red and black together with hints of white make for a very majestic looking palette. So that's hard to kind of mess up really. And I'm just doing another one. A very light bud, if you will. And now after this one, we will do the splatter, and you'll see exactly how that works and how fun it is to do in your paintings. And ideally, I would say you can either use the red or use the black for the splatter. And I think for this one, we'll just use the black. And let's just see how that turns out. I'm just gonna... I also like to do these little like random dots where it looks like it's like unfinished business, but it just looks nicer at the edges. Like that, and just Okay. All right. I'm just going to let that one go now. Okay. So so here's the thing with splatters. Depending on how big your brush is, you might get big splatters or small splatters. Really depends. So I'm just going to use this brush because it has the black, and I would prefer to use the black as opposed to the red. And I'm going to make sure I get a lot of color and water on my brush, mixing that up, and then I just kind of hold it over where I want the splatter to go, and I'm just going to tap in that direction. I'm just going to turn this over so you can see. Where else I am doing it. Right, so that's how you do the splatter. And as you can see, it can be pretty messy, so just make sure you don't have a lot of stuff lying all around. And if you take a little extra water on your brush and you go try and do the splatter, then the splatters get more of a gray. So that's nice to do because then you're getting a variation of dark and light splatters. And then if you want more variety, take a bigger brush and do it with a bigger brush, so then your blobs are a little bigger. And yeah, so that's pretty much how you do poppies, guys. This is my take on it. I hope you guys had fun and learned something new. If you have any comments or suggestions of how I could have made this better, I would love to hear them or read them in the comments below. As always, as I say, or as I have been saying in my previous 2 videos, I love interacting with you guys. I'm available on Instagram and Facebook. So if YouTube is not your ideal way of keeping in touch, please follow me on my other platforms. I'd be very happy to interact with you guys and help you in any way I can on your watercolor journey. So thanks, guys, for watching, and subscribe if you haven't already. Have a great weekend because it's Friday today as I am posting this. So yeah, have a great weekend and we will chat soon. Bye. Love you.